Let's roll, baby. Welcome to the Ringer Gambling Show, live via YouTube. Get used to it because starting Labor Day, 5 days a week, we are going to be rock and rolling. We got every winner imaginable. I hope, hopefully, not too many losers coming from your boy over the course of 18 weeks in the regular season throughout the NFL postseason. But we are kicking it off here on August the 25th. And I welcome in my main man. You see him all the time with me on East Coast Bias. He'll be a part of the Ringer Sunday pregame. Raheem the Dream Palmer in Las Vegas. And he's taking a little break from the U.S. Open. He's taking a little break from Mets Phillies. But Anthony Dabbundo in some space in New York City, might be in Williamsburg. He might be sipping those Pacificos in the Modelo's afterwards. But he's ready to rock. And of course, you know me, JJ John Jastremski, loud, proud, rocking, rolling, feeling it, boys. I'm so thrilled the preseason is over. So sick and tired of these games. Now we get going for real. However, Raheem, I'll start with you on this. We have had a lot of takeaways from our pods that we've done on East Coast Buys, which you can check out on the Ringer Gambling feed. AFC East, NFC East, the over-unders, the picks to win the division, all that mumbo jumbo. But now that we've had a training camp, and now that we've had a couple of these preseason games, take them for what it is. Is there a takeaway that's maybe either changed for you that, or dare I say, has evolved over the last couple of weeks?
Okay, so it's not necessarily a takeaway. I'm going to flip the script on this. So there were 9 starting quarterbacks who didn't play in the preseason. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Baker Mayfield, Michael Penix, and Matthew Stafford. Now, here's some data. You go back to 2024, last year, teams who rested their starting quarterback in the preseason were 1-5 against the spread in the first half and 3-3 for the full game. Now let's go back to the year before that, 2023. Those teams went 2-7 against the spread in the first half and 6-3 for the full game. So you have a little bit of a little bit of rust coming out for those quarterbacks who didn't play in the preseason in the first half. And then also there's a strong trend correlated to passing yards props going under for quarterbacks who didn't play in the preseason. So please remember that going into the regular season.
Yeah, listen, Dabbundo, is that something that you take a whole lot of stock in? The idea of, hey, I want to make sure these guys are ready to go. I'm going to monitor who played, who didn't play in the preseason. Listen, there are certain teams, historically, at least over the last few years, they get off to rotten starts. Cincinnati is the poster child of that, Dabbundo. They are terrible to start these years. They may turn it around at the end of the year. Joe Burrow may put up the big numbers. Dabbundo, we were living in a world last year where Cincinnati was everybody's knockout pick. Week 1 against the Patriots, lost the game outright. So Raheem hits us with the knowledge. Great point, Raheem. Where do you stand on this, Dabbundo? You kind of with this idea of making sure, hey, a quarterback gets a few series, or you don't care?
I don't know, because I feel like Sean McVay is one of the sharper guys in the coaching space, right? Like he understands the importance of rest and of not risking injury. And of course, the Matthew Stafford thing is a little weird because he's got this kind of unknown, is he going to practice? Is he not going to practice thing going on? But I mean, you can look at the Rams too. They're another team that kind of fly under the radar and how bad they've been early in seasons, starting 3 games under 500 the last 2 seasons, and then having to fight their way back. They won the division last year, snuck in as a wild card 2 years ago, end up doing well in the playoffs last year, almost took down the champs. But it's so hard because, like, yes, this is a somewhat new thing, and I think you did also see, and this was true early in the season last year, unders did really well the first month of the season last year. Was that because teams aren't taking preseason as seriously? The offenses aren't as in sync? I think that's something also you have to monitor as well.
I'm glad you brought up the Rams. Because last year on the full game, they beat the Seattle Seahawks 30-13. But if you look at the first half, they were down 7-13 in the first half. So they lost the first half. So clearly there's something to, these quarterbacks being rusty. And if you look at Joe Burrow, there's a reason why he wanted to play this preseason. He played a couple games this preseason because they know they've gotten off to slow starts. So this is something to monitor, particularly in the first half, and then particularly for those quarterback player props.
In some ways, I feel like the Bengals starters playing has kind of made people more concerned because they saw the defense. Everybody got to see the first team defense got kind of run over by Philly's backups, and they were like, "Wait, are
And to
we?"
watch the Commanders, I mean, literally every single play was an explosive play while the first team defense was in.
It's a little concerning, certainly for their defense. But I mean, we all know what the offense is. I don't
And
know,
Trey Henderson still hasn't got paid yet.
I'm
right?
still waiting. Still waiting. Might still be waiting by the time we hit week 1. Okay, I got to hit you guys with this. And maybe this is me being in the New York bubble. I think anybody who's watching right now, anybody who listens to the Ringer Gambling Show or New York, New York, or wherever you can find me, I'm not a fan of New York Giants. I call it fair. I call it balanced. They have been unwatchable for the better part of the last couple of seasons. They've stunk. Last year, for my money, they were the worst team in the NFL. I don't care that they didn't have the number 1 pick. They screwed it up. They beat Indianapolis the second to last week of the year, and they didn't end up with the number 1 pick. That's it, guys. I'm not particularly high on the Washington Commanders this year. I just think they're a team that's poised for regression. They won a lot of close games. They pulled a lot of rabbits out of the hat. Are you going to get 17 weeks of Jaden Daniels? McLaurin's coming in for the first time. Already got his contract. Whoop-de-doo. I'm skeptical on Washington. And then Raheem, your Cowboys, I don't know what you get with Brian Schottenheimer. The whole Micah Parsons situation. He's going to play. He's going to be there, but it's been messy. Dabbundo. I think the Giants are going to be better than people think. I like their pass rush. I think their offensive line will be better. Now, you got to tell me Neighbors is going to play. You got to tell me they get competent quarterback play, whether it's Russell Wilson early or maybe it's Jackson Dart at the end of the year. But I think there was a narrative of, oh, the schedule, and it is. It's daunting. It's grueling. The first 4 weeks are borderline impossible. So I almost want to preface my comment by saying, if the Giants can split the first 2 games of the year at Washington, at Dallas, and haven't beaten Dallas in forever, and I know Washington was in the NFC title game, am I crazy to think the Giants might be, dare I say, Dabbundo, a little bit better than advertised?
I think certainly. I mean, the thing is, like, we do a lot of schedule talk because it makes a lot of sense in the offseason. We're saying, okay, how good was Team X last year? How good were teams that they played last year? And on paper, our going into the season prior is Giants have a brutal schedule. True, the NFC East certainly got the short end of the perceived scheduling stick, but if the Giants end up being a much more competitive team, all of that calculus kind of gets thrown out the window because all of a sudden games were like, oh, they're going to be like 8-point dogs here and 9-point dogs here. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, they're only 3-point underdogs, and games where they were slight underdogs become toss-ups. So the ultimate thing is that the Giants last year, Daniel Jones was 29th out of 47 quarterbacks in EPA plus CPOE composite, and Drew Lock was 43rd. DeVito was even worse in the limited minutes we saw from him, the snaps. So just getting a semblance of competency. There was a moment last year around like late October where the Giants were like a feisty team and they just pulled the plug. And so I think like all of the data from the second half of the Giants season is pretty irrelevant. And if you just go by the first 8 games, it was an anemic offense and a pretty capable defense. Can they get to a world where they're just a mediocre offense and a pretty capable defense, and then they're like a 7-win team? I think that's in the cards, certainly.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the pass rush. You add Abdul Carter to a unit that already has Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Brian Burns. So
Top 5 unit.
I think
Easy.
that's scary. And I think you're playing, obviously you're in the NFC East. You have a tough schedule. It's tough for me just because I do buy into the fact that this is the toughest schedule in the NFL. And I do buy into the look ahead line. So it's hard for me to really, make a wager on this Giants team really making any noise. But ultimately, I do like the roster and I like the direction that they're headed.
For what
Well,
it's worth, I did bet they're over.
wow. Okay, Dabbundo. Me too.
It's not like my favorite bet of the
Me
year. It's
neither.
not like one that I'm going to go bang the table and say, go throw your hard-earned dollars on Russ and Jackson Dart to go over. But I think that the point you led with, which was Washington and Dallas, that they were like basically punting those games by the end of the season last year when they went into like Thanksgiving with Drew Lock, when they went into
They were
the
automatic
late
losses.
season. Right.
Automatic.
Here's the problem. You play Washington and Dallas on the road, and then you come back and play Kansas City and I was
The
about to say
Chargers.
San Diego. But it's like if you look at their home games, all of their home games are extremely difficult. Like, how do you have all of the home? You have home games like Kansas City, the Chargers, the Eagles, the Green Bay. Like, all of your home games are not gimmies.
Now, I get that. And that's why they have to be better within the division in order for this to, dare I say, come to fruition. Now, Raheem, you don't want to get on the over. Fine. You said this a few weeks ago. I bet it as well. I hope we could get our boy Dabbundo on board with this as well. Raheem, Giants plus 6.5. Live, baby. Week 1 against Washington. House ain't here. They're live.
Oh yeah, by far. I mean, like I gave this out at +7 a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully you guys got the best of the number, but +6.5, +7. I think there might have been some 7.5s out there, but
There was in the summer, yeah.
Yeah, you ain't getting that no more. Bye-bye.
No.
yeah, I mean, I think the Giants are extremely live.
Dabbundo,
I mean,
come
you
on.
can even go back to last season. Week 2, I know it was really early in Jaden Daniels' career, but the Giants didn't have a field goal kicker for that game in the fourth quarter because of injury. They had to go for it. They had to kind of box themselves into a corner there, and then the Commanders came down and won the game. Another one of the many miracles that the Washington Commanders pulled off. Still don't, Joe House ducking the show. I think he kind of knew we were going to be talking about the Commanders in a negative light, so I think he was intentionally dodging us today.
Okay. We have 2 preseason takeaways. Raheem, it's all about, hey, watch what quarterbacks play, monitor the teams that don't play their guys. Maybe got to fade them first week or 2 of the year. I'm saying to keep an eye on the New York Football Giants. Dabbundo, I'm saving the best for last here because I think I know where you're going with this. Actually, I'm not going to lie. I know exactly where you're going with this. Are you ready, my man, for the Daniel Jones experience week 1 against the Miami Dolphins? Oh, baby.
And to think, I'm not just upset because I bet Richardson to start week 1 and I lost that bet. I'm upset because this entire situation just absolutely reeks of incompetence and like negligence, gross incompetence, remarkable levels of inconsistent decision making. Because we have seen the Colts basically go on again, off again, on again, off again, on again, off again about Anthony Richardson since the day he was drafted. Chris Ballard has talked openly. He likes to talk to media. He's talked openly about how he feels like they were kind of pressured into throwing Richardson into the fire 2 years ago. He gets hurt. Then last season, he gets hurt again. And like I understand there's the argument of, okay, if you can't stay healthy, then that's a different issue. And I kind of throw that aside. If he keeps getting hurt, then it was never going to work. But to say that the guy they drafted, who had made 13 college starts after less than 1 full season of NFL starts, isn't the guy you're going to take your chance on, why did you hitch your wagon to him? Because it feels like the Colts are making decisions to try to maximize the number of games that they win in 2025. And to me, that is a bad decision because I don't even agree with the concept that Daniel Jones is some high floor quarterback. I haven't seen high floor out of Daniel Jones in 3 years. And since then, he's had multiple neck injuries, an ACL injury. He looks like he's lost arm strength. I mean, you watch him try to throw deep balls and it's not pretty. He's got to like throw everything he has into it just to get the ball 30, 40 yards down the field. So you're taking away the rushing game effectiveness that was true with Richardson last year. You're taking away the explosiveness from this offense, and you're left with like a dink and dunk quarterback who commands the offense better. It is gross incompetence and honestly took away any excitement I had of watching my Colts this year and any interest of betting their over.
So listen, Raheem, Steichen, Ballard, under the gun in Indy. They're doing everything possible, dare I say, to try to win games. If their answer to try to win games, Raheem, is starting Daniel Jones. And listen, this is where Dabbundo, let me ask you this before I go to Raheem. Are you still a believer in Anthony Richardson? You personally, forget about the Colts, forget about their philosophy. Are you a believer that Anthony Richardson still has what it takes to be a big-time quarterback in this league?
What I see in Richardson is somebody who, and look, I'm not in the locker room. I'm not behind the scenes. I'm not in the room watching tape with them. I'm not seeing how he's making checks at the line. Like, I can't judge that side of it. But what I can judge is there's a lot of bad narratives that have developed out Richardson, starting with completion percentage. And I go back to a point that Stephen Ruiz made last week on the Ringer NFL show. If you just compare Bryce Young's stats to Anthony Richardson's stats, they're very comparable over the course of their NFL careers in terms of efficiency, because what Richardson lacks in completion percentage, I get it. It's low. It's kind of jarring. We're not used to seeing this, but he's an incredible sack avoider, and he's turning a lot of those avoided sacks into throwaways. So a lot of his plays last year that were incompletions would have been sacks for a lot of other quarterbacks. So that is something you have to monitor. And they were one of the most explosive in terms of number of explosive plays offenses in the league last year when he was on the field. And that is something that you are constantly chasing. If you're an offense that's trying to find ceiling, trying to find something special, that the ability to make highlight reel plays is something that I think is valuable. Yes, the consistency wasn't there, but he would be one of the 2 youngest quarterbacks in the NFL starting if he started in week 1.
Okay. All that being said, Raheem, these guys are fighting for their jobs, and they look at these 2 quarterbacks and make the case that Daniel Jones gives them the best chance to win. That should tell you something about Richardson. Fair?
I think Anthony Richardson should just go get his CDL. Like, I mean, when I watch this guy play, I think he sets black quarterbacks back to the 60s. I mean, like, I am not a fan of this guy. I mean, 32nd in EPA per play plus completion over expectation, 31st in success rate. And you talk about his completion percentage at 47%. You're talking, he's like 7 points worse than Zach Wilson. Like, this guy is garbage, like straight trash. Like, I don't want to see him play quarterback ever again. Like, I know he's.
Yeah, I can't get there, man, because he's like, yes, the completion percentage is low, but he's throwing the ball down the field way more. And do they need to rein him in a little? Probably. Yes. You can't survive on an A dot of 14.
I don't think he's accurate. Look, I know he's only played 39 games since high school, 24 in college, 15 in the NFL. I think 10, 15, 20 years ago, he'd be riding the bench for about 3-4 seasons, and then you let him learn and then put him in. But in today's NFL, I just don't think they have the time to truly develop him. And he can't stay healthy. So you look at the inaccuracy issues, the fact that he can't stay healthy. In today's NFL, he's just going to catch a bad deal. And he sucked in Florida. Like, I don't know. He's just sucked as long as I've seen him.
Listen, you're not going to get me to side with Richardson.
There's been flashes, though. You could put together a highlight.
The Jet game. You know what it is, Dabbundo? You look at the Jet game in the 4th quarter of last year against the defense that collapsed against everybody, and that is like the glimmer of hope that you
Patriots
would have
too.
That Anthony Richardson could put it together. Okay. I bet this already. Raheem, we gave it out when we did the AFC South as our first pod doing the division-by-division previews. I got 8.5. I also bet alternate unders, Dabbundo. I apologize in advance on the Colts. To me, whether it's Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson, I hate the vibe. I know there's talent on the roster. There is. See, that's the dirty little secret about the Colts. You have Jonathan Taylor. You have pieces on both offense and defense. You can make a case that, hey, you're actually setting up a quarterback to be successful. If dare you say you actually had one. But I just think there are too many elements of, hey, this is going to break apart, and hey, this is going to get ugly. 7.5 wins right now. The under is at -120. Dabbundo, your thoughts?
I feel like our teams might be the bad vibes teams of the year. We still have the steak dinner bet on the first week, JJ?
Why would it be rescinded? A bet is a bet is a bet.
I was hoping to get out of it.
But here's for everybody watching, I want to preface this. We made this bet a couple months, not a couple months ago. It was summertime. About a month ago, mid to late July. And Dabbundo was like talking shit. I mean, let's be honest. He was flexing a little bit. Then when the news came out, Raheem, that it was going to be Danny Dimes over Anthony Richardson, Dabundo's like coming to me like I'm TJ Maxx asking for a refund. I go, no, buddy. No refunds here. What, for better or worse, the bet is on, and no 1.5 either. Like it's
straight up, of course.
Straight up. I don't care if the Dolphins lose by 1. If they lose by 1, shame on them. The bet is made, Raheem. Peter Luger's, medium rare, cream spinach, shrimp cocktail, a whole fixins on the Dolphins and the Colts week 1. I know everybody's dying to watch Dolphins Colts week 1. Dream, there's a lot on the line for these two guys.
That might be the degenerate special for week 1 because both defenses are facing some injury issues in the back end. Both offenses have pretty bad vibes for various reasons. Both coaches are on the hot seat. I feel like it might be the alt under bowl. Like whoever loses that week 1 game, it feels like it could spiral very quickly for both teams.
I totally agree with that. And I actually have unders on both teams. So I wish both of them could lose or we can get a tie.
Tie?
Well, we don't.
If we get a tie, we're both buying Raheem dinner. How about that?
Maybe. I'll see him in a couple weeks. So maybe. All right. Now, Dabbundo, now that you got this Colts stuff off your chest, and I know you've been like dying every which way imaginable to do it. You now have to sell us on futures because Raheem and I have been giving them out for the better part of 3 or 4 weeks. There are some, I got to be honest, that I feel really, really good about. Like that Colts under that I got at 8.5, and now the number is up to -200. I feel fantastic about that bet. There are a few I've made where I got to be honest. The skepticism, the uneasiness, the queasiness kind of comes into the picture. But forget about us for a second. You have to sell us now on a couple of futures. So you got 3 for us. What do we have for number 1?
Yeah, I feel like it's everybody's become like the sharp opinion, the consensus, but you can just look at everything about this Washington Commanders team and poke a lot of holes into the entire resume. I mean, yes, they won 12 games last year. The series of miracles that they pulled off that I referenced earlier between the week 2 game, the Hail Mary, multiple final second wins in the fourth quarter with these crazy drives. Marcus Mariota leading the charge in the final week to get their 12th win. Atlanta missing a field goal as time expires so that the Commanders could win that game. This comes down to the roster construction for me. They were a flawed roster last year. Even a Commanders fan would acknowledge that like this was a flawed team that relied a lot on aging veterans who signed, free agent deals, who got, little bits of production here and there. Dan Quinn coached up a defense that forced some turnovers to overcome the fact that they were not a particularly good unit down to down. They're relying a ton on over 30 players. And if you take like an adjusted and expected starting lineup, they are the oldest team in the NFL. And they have not drafted well for the better part of the last 5 years, outside of Jaden Daniels and Sandra still. So I see a team that's aging. We all agree also that Jaden Daniels had one of the best rookie quarterback seasons in the history of the NFL, easily in the top 5, top 3. He could get better. It's also probably more likely he takes a small step back. And I think that's a reasonable thing, not to mention the injury questions. So you throw in the fact that they were roughly like a 10.5 win team last year. They have a much tougher schedule this year. Even in the division, they only played Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott once last year. They, in theory, will play them 4 times this year. Huge difference there. And the fourth downs. They were the best fourth down team by EPA in the history, basically, of the NFL. I mean, I only pulled the data through 2000, but we know that like fourth downs weren't as much of a thing back in the day. This century, they are the best fourth down team, or were, of all time. That probably won't continue. So there's just a lot of red flags that anybody who understands the analytics can like parse through. But I really think it comes down to age, quarterbacks, close games, fourth downs, all of the horseshoe up their ass, as Danny Heifetz was saying about this team.
Yeah, I endorse it. I full-fledged endorse it. You're going to see a little bit later on when we dive into who we have making the playoffs and who we have on the outside looking in as far as the constant turnover that you see in the NFL. Washington's one of those teams for me, Raheem. And I know Jane Daniels is a baller, and he's a top quarterback in the sport and was remarkable last year. I usually think market correction is real, and you pull that many rabbits out of a hat like the Commanders did last year. You tell me they're going to do it again? Fourth down, as Dabbundo alluded to. You tell me you're going to do that again? And most importantly, Raheem, you telling me you're getting 17 games out of Jane Daniels? I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy. I don't see it. I would bet that as an under as well.
Yeah, the fourth downs were crazy for me. And you're talking 20 of 23 on fourth down, 87%. And then you go to the playoffs and you're 6 and 9 on fourth down. Like Jaden Daniels on fourth down alone, 146 passer rating on fourth down, 8 completions, 77 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Like he was just the greatest quarterback of all time on fourth down. But
it's incredible. Maybe he's that good.
Yeah, but this team was 8-4 in one-score games, and they had a cupcake schedule last year. Look at the quarterbacks they got to play last year: Daniel Jones, Andy Dalton, Caleb Williams, Daniel Jones, Cooper Rush. They lost to him. Will Levis, Jake Hayner, Spencer Rattler, Kenny Pickett, Trey Lance, Deshaun Watson, and Joe Burrow. I mean, one of those is not like the other, but it's like I can't get there for some reason. It's like I feel like this number is right on market. So I lean towards your direction, but I just can't bet it. So I'm not endorsing it, but I'm also not telling you you're wrong.
You're queasy. Okay, so you're queasy. Yeah. I'm not. I already bet it. I'm right there with you, Dabbundo. I bet the under for wins. I also bet him to miss the postseason. More on that to come later.
I mean, they added Tunsil and Debo, neither of which were
Great.
particularly
Neither
good
was
players
good last year. Neither was good. I'm supposed to get excited about Debo Samuel? 4 years ago, I would have.
I don't know.
Not
Debo
now.
Debo looked good against the Bengals in that preseason game.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
Raheem. I
looking
think
good
you
against the
might. I think you might
Bengals.
have looked good against that Bengal defense, Raheem.
He might have something left in the tank. I
I
don't
don't think
know.
he's like bad. I just don't think he's like a different. I don't
He's
think
not
he moved the
Debo.
needle.
Debo from the
It's very
playoffs since Green Bay a few years ago. He's not that guy.
it's very similar to me to like what Stephon Diggs was for the Texans, where it's like, oh, the fantasy gets excited and it's a name. And we all know like Debo's been a big part of a lot of big playoff games in the last 5 years of the NFL. But it was clear by the second half of last season or the 2 seasons ago that Diggs had kind of taken a little bit of a step back in that Buffalo offense, and like maybe the loss wasn't as big. And I kind of feel the same way about Debo. And Diggs was productive before the injury last year. It wasn't like he's a bad player. I just don't think he moves the needle in a way that people are expecting. And I feel the same way about Tunsil, who, I mean, ask any Houston fan.
It was
Like
terrible.
they were ready to move on from Mr. Tunsil.
It was terrible. Guys had a tremendous career, but did not play to the. I like to say the back of the baseball card, but it doesn't work in the NFL. So you got to ignore what I was trying to do there. Anyway, Dabbundo, I bet number one. I also bet the next pick you're going to give us. I know what it is. I love it. I can't stress enough how much I love this pick. I'm proud of you. We're very aligned here. Share with us the division bet that you have made.
Yeah, so I took Green Bay over wins, but I also like their division plus 250, 260s out there. I feel like the football nerd hipsters, people that we do this for content and stuff, we always like Green Bay. And for another year, I'm going to be on Green Bay. I did their over in their division last year. They didn't win the division, but they did go over. And I'm back on the wagon again. I mean, we don't give enough credit to LaFleur. I really don't think we do. They seamlessly transitioned from Rodgers to Love. Didn't skip a beat. Actually got better in the first year with Love as opposed to the last year with Rodgers. Then they lose Love to an injury. And I remember going into week 2 last year, they were playing the Colts, and anybody you could find could not wait to tell you how bad Malik Willis is. Like, this guy shouldn't even be allowed to walk on the football field. And then guess what? The Packers won multiple games with Malik Willis as the starter.
Don't remind me. I bet against them in many of those games, including one against Tennessee. Imagine that, giving Will Levis in Tennessee is your best bet of the week. Mulligan, can I get that? Can I get that back?
Exactly.
Please?
And we just, we're like, wow, Malik Willis really took a step forward. Maybe we should look differently at Mike Vrabel because of that. Maybe we should look differently at Malik Willis because of that. What if we just give some credit to to LaFleur? I mean, he's done an incredible job every year. They're an elite offense since he took over. 8th, 1st, 2nd, 12th. That was the last year with Rodgers. 6th, and then last year 4th. And honestly, I don't think Green Bay even had that good of a year because none of those receivers ended up taking a step that we thought they would. Love was in and out and inconsistent. He had like a hot 2 months and then he was just kind of okay otherwise. The defense took a big step forward, which I think is notable. And now we're left with Green Bay, and I kind of think that they have the least turnover, the least change. Like, there's a lot that's changed in Minnesota, in Chicago, and in Detroit, and Green Bay is just right there. And I think comfortably could win 11 or 12 games.
I love the Packers. Absolutely, positively love the Packers. Now, I think if there's pushback on it, Raheem, it's Jordan Love because they are incredibly well coached. They established the physicality that you saw in the second half of last year, but Jordan Love did not play great against the teams in his division last year, and he did not play great against the elite level competition. I think there are a whole lot of folks who have a sour taste in their mouth, maybe thinking about that Minnesota game the second to last week of the year, or thinking about Wild Card Weekend against the Philadelphia Eagles. I bet Green Bay as well to win this division, Raheem. I see regression coming for the Lions. Minnesota, there's the J.J. McCarthy question. Nobody seems to know, is he going to be the real deal? Is he going to take a step back from what Sam Darnold was a year ago? And in Chicago, I know everybody in Bearland is all excited. It's asking a lot to go from where they were last year to win a division. Now, you like the Bears a lot, Raheem. You like them a lot. But if you had to take them out, and I know you're calling your shot on the Bears to win a division, which I'm proud of you for. Sometimes you got to take a couple risks doing these futures. What's your kind of perception on the Packers?
Well, I think the Bears is about the number. At plus 550, you bring in Ben Johnson, I think there's value there. You look at the Green Bay Packers, I think they were snake bitten last year. Jordan Love, he finished 9th in EPA per play, but you saw he got injured the first game of the season. He had that MCL injury, and then he had the groin injury, and then later on he got banged up as well. So he never truly was healthy. And I think sometimes when you get off to just a rough start injury wise, you never really find it. And I never felt like they really had it together. I mean, this team was 11-1 against most of their schedule, and then 0-6 against the Lions, Vikings, and Eagles. And I think that is something that can turn around this year. However, Jordan Love, he is kind of getting off to a rough start again. I mean, you're talking about a guy who just had a minor surgery on his left thumb. So we don't know how that's going to impact him. But I mean, I think overall, I do think this is a good wager. I just like the wager on the Bears from a numbers perspective a little bit better. But I do think the Packers can make a leap to being a Super Bowl contender in a weak NFC.
And the number kind of indicates that, Dabbundo, when you look at the Super Bowl odds and you see, Green Bay is rather up there, right? Like they're inside that 25-1 number, which I think kind of indicates the odds makers, they're bullish on your team.
I mean, I'm bullish. I feel like I should get it. I have a cheesehead. The Colts are
Of course you do, by the way.
disheartening
That's
me
not surprising.
every year. They've kind of broken my soul at this point. Maybe I should just maybe I should make them my NFC team. I'm like halfway there at this point with how much I've loved the Green Bay
Well,
apparatus.
I mean,
the last
just
few
bet
years.
them every which way, and then maybe you have a little fun in January, and we see you with a cheesehead walking around Super Bowl week in Santa Clara. Okay, final one, Dabbundo, and I see where you went with this particular pick. Are you looking to try to pull a page out of the Jane Daniels Washington script from a year ago? Is that the thought process?
I mean, anytime you can bet on the worst team in the history of NFL gambling to go over the next year, I feel like you have to. So I'm going to do it. The Titans were 2-15 against the spread last year. No team has ever done that.
They were so bad.
It's unfathomable.
Cost me way too much money. I
Got a
bet
lot
on them
wrong
way
last
too
year.
much. I bet on them way too often, might I add. Way too often. That's
I only
like
did once.
friends don't let friends bet Will Levis. Just let's state that on the record, okay?
Well, thankfully, I don't think you'll be having to do that this year. I like the Titans over. I like their over 5.5 is -140. You could take an over 6.5. They're plus 400 to make the playoffs. I think the AFC wildcard race is kind of more open than people are perceiving. Like it's easy to pencil in the big three: Chiefs, Ravens, Bills. I think we're all like, all right, unless the quarterback gets hurt, we're pretty confident they'll be there. But I do think the wildcard race is more open. People are expecting okay, they have Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh, so the Chargers are in, and the Broncos are apparently the 85 Bears, so they're in, and we're just going to have all those playoff spots are locked up, and we're just going to keep the season going. Same teams make the playoffs as last year. Maybe we pretend that Pittsburgh won't go 8-9 or 9-8 again, and then they're there. But I think the race is open. I don't love I'm starting to sour on Jacksonville. I was originally hyping Jacksonville. Now I'm like a little bit less confident in them. Obviously, the Colts are a bit of a disaster. But Tennessee was the worst special teams in the league. They had a saboteur as quarterback for a large part of the season. And their defense was okay. And now L'Jarius Sneed for now is healthy, which I think would help their secondary. The main reason I'm bullish on Tennessee, they might be the best O-line in this division. I know that the Colts are the best on paper, but I'm a little concerned about their interior. And Tennessee has rebuilt the O-line. They move Latham, the right tackle. Cushenberry comes back. They make some big moves to beef them up there. That's going to be a big key. And then there's the Cam Ward X factor. I don't know how good Cam Ward is. I'm not a scout. They don't pay me to decide who's going to be the good quarterback or not. I think it's really hard. And I think a lot of people are way too confident in their ability to project these things, but it is a huge variable. And if he's just average and their offense is just average as a result, yeah, they're like a 7-8 win team with the potential, if he's really good, to win 9, 10.
So fair logic. Raheem, I hate the coaching staff.
That's that's the scary part.
Stinks,
What if
Raheem.
Callahan stinks?
It's terrible.
So,
But I don't know. Again, he kind of got stuck with the Levis thing. He didn't draft Levis.
So I really like this one, but I don't like it right now.
I see what you're gonna say. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, look, I'm willing to bet that Cam Ward is better than Will Levis. Will Levis stinks.
If he's not,
I would hope,
then my bet's
Raheem.
in big trouble.
I'm willing to bet on that. And then I'm also willing to bet on turnover regression. The only team who threw more interceptions than the Tennessee Titans, they threw 21, was the Browns.
Jameis.
The Titans had 30 turnovers last year. So I think you get regression on the turnover front. I think you get regression on the gambling front with them being 2-15 against the spread, I think you get regression on the quarterback front, and that makes them better. But I have a ton of respect for the market. And if you look at week one, they're 7.5 point underdogs going to Denver to play a mile high. Then
Tough.
they come home and have to play Matthew Stafford. Well, maybe Matthew Stafford. I don't know if Matthew Stafford's playing. But either way, they have to go home and they're 5.5 point underdogs against the Rams. So the way I look at it is like, why am I betting this over right now when I can wait for them to, lose maybe game one or game two, and then I can jump in on an adjusted win total at a better price. So I really like this one, but I think this is one I want to wait on.
No, I totally get that. I think that's a good point. I mean, the schedule's way lighter in the second half, which could be better if Ward's, getting acclimated. I mean, pretty tough start. Like you said, Rams ferocious pass rush, Denver at Denver in week one. I don't love the skill group the Titans have and the way that Denver plays defense. They are kind of built to beat up on the lower talented teams in this league. And so you could see a world where that goes poorly, especially because Denver historically has an incredible home field advantage in the first couple of weeks because nobody's in shape yet and they have to go to altitude. But I want to be in early enough just in case he hits the ground running and he really is a special player. So you could do like you put some of the bet down now and then save some.
it.
If you want to jump in early, are you going to bet them against the Broncos or Rams?
I have not bet them yet in week one, but
you're going to be on them week one.
Because
you're betting them. You're betting them.
I'm probably going to be on them in week one. Yeah.
To me, if you're going to bet their win total now, you got to bet one of those first two games.
Yeah.
Because one thing we know about the NFL betting market is that the lines aren't as sharp to start the season. I have a ton of respect for the market, but if you're making a bet on that win total, you're telling me like, yo, I got to go bet them against the Broncos. I got to bet them against the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, again, Rams slow starter team too, right? So I think there's a world where maybe even week one doesn't go well, and they struggle, and then we get a better price on them week two at home. And the Rams are notoriously slow starters, and then in the home opener they pull an upset, and we're like, all right, Tennessee 1-1. Again, I'm not saying Tennessee is going to be like a great team. I just think that there's way more upside than the market's pricing them for here.
Yeah, I'm totally in agreement. And the funny thing is, a lot of people may not remember this, but C.J. Stroud's first year, they started off 0-2.
Yep.
They did. It was to Baltimore and it was to somebody else for him. I don't remember
Indianapolis.
off the top of my head. There you
Colts
go.
Week 2, they got smoked. Yeah.
And then they finished 10-7, made the postseason. So that could be, the Tennessee Titans this year.
And the Commanders got worked in week one as well. They got rolled last year by
Tampa Bay. My Buccaneers. Oh,
you're a Bucs guy this year?
Oh, big time. I was a Buck guy last year. I'm always a Baker Mayfield. We trust. Baker Mayfield can ball. He can ball. Boys, it's the Ringer Gambling Show with the East Coast Bias Boys 2/3, plus Dabbundo, who's going to be joining us every Monday. And speaking of every Monday, every day starting Labor Day, YouTube channel. Check us out. 12 Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Content galore coming your way. We're going to take a quick break for the pod. We got a lot more stuff, though, coming your way. And don't go anywhere if you're on the live stream. All right. Dabbundo, last year, and this is why we're going to do this competition amongst all of us here with the Ringer. The Ringer 107. I think it's going to be unveiled on Bill's pod, so I don't want to give away too much information. But I was a little pissed off, I'm not going to lie, about this tease element that's being allowed. And I just think it's lame. I hate teasers, like, for a competition. It's like, you know why? Last year, and this is going to set up what I'm about to say, and you're going to have some more info on this. I'm sure Raheem is as well. You had the big teams just absolutely dominate. Like, it was an amazing NFL year. If you just wanted to tease Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, Detroit, Philadelphia, like those teams were
no upsets last year.
Yeah, it sucked. I hated it.
I mean,
I hated it.
We just talked about the Titans. The Titans, they accounted for 13 of those.
I know.
That single-handedly changes the sample size.
But the point being is this, Dabbundo. Do we think the 2025 NFL season is going to follow a similar script? We always have top teams, right? Like, that's a given. That doesn't change. But the dominance in which they were, hey, easy peasy, throw them in the teams, you got nothing to worry about. Are we going to have that again, you think, this time around this year?
I've thought about this more than anything probably in my life this summer. When I've done NFL prep, when I've been driving in the car, when I've been in the shower, when I've been texting friends who work in front offices and analytics departments, friends who are sharp bettors who bet a lot of money on NFL games and move markets, and kind of just trying to gauge what the hell happened last year and if there's a single thing or a factor that contributed to it. And honestly, I don't think anybody confidently can say what happened. It is interesting though. So here's the stat: favorites won 71.8% of games through December last year. That was the second highest rate since the NFL went to 16 games in 1978. That's per ESPN research. We saw underdogs do well in the first 4 weeks. Remember, everybody's survivor pools got busted up because of all these big dogs winning. And then the second the calendar hit October, the haves became great and they just rolled and trucked, and the have-nots really struggled. Now, I have a lot of different reasons for this. I think there's multiple factors that contribute to it. One is a lot of the best teams last year were pretty run heavy. You look at Detroit, Philly, Buffalo, Baltimore. There's just less variance when you're a big favorite who can successfully dominate run games. You're not going to turn it over as much if you run the ball consistently as putting the ball in the air. There was also less explosives last year in the NFL. And traditionally, like explosives, fluke plays, big, huge swings are how upsets happen, right? The underdog pulls off a big play or two to swing the game. More teams are optimizing for fourth downs. So they're like the edge of like, oh, we're going to be, these riverboat gamblers. We're going to go for it on fourth down and we're going to be able to get an edge there. That's kind of gone because the smart teams, if you think about like the best fourth down teams last year, Washington, we talk about they're an outlier, but the Eagles and their tush push, and Buffalo and what they run, and Baltimore doing it with Mark Andrews sometimes. Like all of those teams were optimized really well for fourth downs, which makes it even harder to pull off upsets. There were more QB injuries in the bottom half of the league. Some people speculated the kickoff stuff. Ultimately, I think it's an outlier, but I have my antenna raised firmly up because it's something that it was so jarring to watch, like NFL Sundays where 15 of the 16 games were just the favorite one. And then we all talked about the one upset. And we're like, wow, the Giants beat the Colts. And every other favorite just kind of comfortably won. It was weird and uncomfortable. And I don't think it will continue, but I am watching out for it. I think the run game thing could be the most interesting part of it all.
Where do you stand on that, Dream?
So you know how in The Godfather, Clemenza was like, this only got to happen every 5-10 years or so. I think that's what happened. Because if you go back to 2017, favorites were 179 and 74, 70% straight up. And then if you go back to 2005, favorites were 188 and 63, 74.9%. And then against the spread, they were 142, 99 and 10, 58.9%. So I think every now and then you just get an outlier year like this where just things go haywire. And I don't even think it's the quarterback injuries because I think last year you only had 59 starting quarterbacks. The year before that, 66. The year before that, 68. The year before, 61. So I just think sometimes you just have a year where, like, I'll look at it like this. The NFC North had 2 14-win teams. So
and another team that made the playoffs, by the way, in
and
Green
another
Bay.
team, yeah. So you had Green Bay winning 11 games, Minnesota winning 14, the Lions winning 15. So that's almost like half the NFC wins right there. So I just think, sometimes you just have an outlier year where there's the haves and the have-nots. And then, of course, you got guys in the league like Anthony Richardson who need to get a CD
come on.
playing quarterback.
Colts won 8 games. That's another thing. I don't want to get back into this again. The way people talk about the Colts, the way that people talk about the Colts, you would have thought they went 3-14 and were like the joke of the league. They were a Jonathan Taylor dropping the ball.
No, don't remind me. Another game that I lost on. This is turning into JJ complaining about every bet he lost in the 2024 season. Yeah, don't get me started. So maybe that's where I think some of our saltiness, Mr. Dabbundo, comes in on your Colts. Now,
fair.
There's an exercise that we need to do, gentlemen. Because if you look at the history of the NFL, it's almost a formality that you can just jot down every single one of the playoff teams from the prior year, and you could take, 1 out, 2 out, maybe 3 out, and put a couple more teams in there. Last year, you saw this shakeout. I'm sure the year before, you saw this shakeout. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. So we'll start in the AFC. Raheem, you can give me 1, you can give me 2. Give me two teams that will be in that were not a year ago, and give me two teams from last year's playoff field that will be out.
All right, so I'm being really bold with this. I'm going with Cardinals and Bears in. I'm going with Lions and Vikings
Oh,
out.
so you're going NFC. Okay, sorry. I said AFC, but that's fine. You give me the NFC. It's totally fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going with Cardinals and Bears in, Lions and Vikings out.
Wow.
Okay.
No NFC North
NFC,
anymore.
NFC for me, NFC for me, Washington, you're going to like this, Dabbundo. I have them out. Now, I'm going with a very cliche one. San Francisco's going to make the playoffs. Just to me, their roster is loaded. No,
I
they're
don't
too
know.
well coached. They're
Are they
making.
loaded?
They are loaded. Yes, they still are. They still have an incredibly pedigree of the team that
There's
was
a
there
lot
2
of
years
injuries,
ago.
man. Like Juwan Jennings is banged up, Ayuk is banged up, and the
They
O
lost a
line.
lot of guys on defense.
They did.
Yeah,
They
coordinator's
did.
a lot better though.
Yes, significant upgrade there.
Yeah, they're a tricky team because everybody's doing the schedule thing with them too.
So soft.
But
So
again, if they're
soft.
not that good, then the schedule thing kind of goes out the window. Like if they're not as good as we think, all those games where they would be slight favorites, now they're
You
slight
don't think they're
dogs.
getting to 10 wins, Dabbundo?
I think there is some blowout potential for the Niners.
Maybe.
They're an older team.
Maybe.
They're an oft injured team. And I know like we talk about injury luck, but when it's the same guys who keep getting hurt, that's just players that have injury histories. It's not just like injury luck necessarily. And with their age and with the uncertainty there, like, yes, there is a high floor offense because of Shanahan, but I don't know. The whole core of the guys that made that team great are just not there anymore.
Yeah,
I'm
the
fired up with
49ers
Raheem.
continue to be the weirdest team of all time. Like since 1998, they've even either made the NFC Championship game or they've missed the playoffs entirely.
So that speaks to, hey, the volatile market with them. I just think there's a path for them to get right back to where
Yeah.
they were 2 years
If
ago.
you like the Niners, like you should probably bet their 1 seed.
Or bet them to win the NFC.
Right. Because like yes, if they do end up being good, really good, and then they have a much easier path than whoever comes out of the North, because they're probably going to be beat up, and or even the Eagles, who are the best team on paper, but their schedule is way harder this year. So like even if the Eagles are just as good as they were last year, they're probably going to take a step back in wins.
I want to get your take on the Cardinals. Raheem is very bullish on them. I was very bullish on them last year. Bet them over. The Kyler Murray experience in the month of December is just not a pleasant one by any stretch of the imagination. But I like Arizona again this year. I think there are pieces on both sides of the ball. And I think the Kyler Murray question is the biggest one for them. I like their head coach, Dabbundo. Add a guy like Campbell, put him on the defense. I think you get a better year out of Marvin Harrison Jr. McBride's a real deal at tight end. Can I get you in on Arizona?
I have Arizona in, yeah. I feel like they've kind of they were the early offseason buzz team. A lot of people were the hipsters were like, hey, we got to get Arizona some love, and that defense could really take a step forward. They tackle really well. They understand their assignments. They're not that talented, but they play above their talent level. And maybe they have a little bit more of a pass rush this year because it felt like last year they never did. Yeah, the Kyler experience though, it is a little scary. I think they're like a pretty low ceiling, but I think they could easily be like a 9-10 win wildcard team.
Yeah, I just like the pieces that the Cardinals added. And I mean, you look at what Jonathan Gannon has done. You know, they were the worst defense in the league 2 years ago, middle of the pack last year, and they were 29th in adjusted games lost on defense. So pretty much the whole defense was in the hospital. Now you add Josh Sweat, you bring back Calais Campbell, you bring in Dalvin Tomlinson, and then you draft Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. I just think their pass rush, which was non-existent last year, is now a strength. And I think that makes them dangerous. And I think if Kyler Murray, this is a guy with extreme highs and lows. Like we've seen him on a level to where he's playing is on a high, extremely high level in terms of like, you know, compared to the top quarterbacks in this league. But then we've also seen an extremely low floor as well. And I think if he could just be consistent, I think this team has a chance to win the division. I took them over 8.5 wins. I took them to win the division. I just think it's a year where they have a real chance of surprising people.
I'm just warning everybody with the Cardinals. Betting on Kyler Murray at the end of these years is not fun. That's all I'm going to say.
I had Kyler Murray in week 17 when he threw the interception off the guy's helmet in the end zone against the Rams. It was brutal.
Okay. Dabbundo, you have another NFC team in here. I am stunned. Got to be honest. I'm absolutely stunned you have them in the playoffs. It's not the Arizona Cardinals. It's not the San Francisco 49ers. The Seattle Seahawks? Really?
I want to say that I think we're doing official predictions next week. So
We are.
I've been kind of toggling around in like the picking every game machine that they have
Oh,
on
you
on the
you you went down that road?
Yeah,
You're a
it's kind of
sick man.
fun. It's a
You're a
fun
sick man.
exercise.
You really are.
Is it a time sink? Probably. Am I getting a lot of value out of this? No, but I'm having fun doing it, so I'm going to do it. Seattle's an interesting team because you only have to go back to last year when we were like, this Kubiak guy, look what the Saints are doing. Like
Oh,
week
greatest
2
show on turf.
for
Oh,
like
I heard
3
that after
weeks.
2 weeks. My goodness.
Right. And like they got crazy production out of Derek Carr and all we talked about all offseason was Saints O-line stinks. Saints O-line stinks. They can't block anybody. And then we're like, wait, actually, the Saints are kind of making this work with a pretty limited group. And like nobody's so super excited about their skill position group. I kind of feel the same way about the Seahawks. Like, yes, we all know what Sam Darnold's limitations are. We all know that the offensive line is not great, although I think Zabel's a big upgrade in the interior for them. But we've also all seen this before. Like, I thought the coordinator was pretty bad last year in Seattle, Ryan Grubb. And I think it could be a big coordinator upgrade. And that alone with Smith and Jigba, who could be a top end wide receiver one, that could be enough to be like a solid offense. I think the defense is really good. I think McDonald schemes up defense better than anybody in the league right now, him and Flores. And so you're getting a defense that could carry them to a pretty respectable season, an offense that does just enough. Like, are they that different from the Denver Broncos? Because like Denver gets so much hype, and I know a lot of people like Denver. Are the Seahawks that different if this offensive coordinator is as good as I think he might be?
I'll jump in. Yes.
I don't know. Like
I do.
They won
I
the
think
same
they're
number. They
drastic-
won the same number of games last year.
They are downgrading a quarterback.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold does not have Justin Jefferson throw the football to.
True.
Raheem, what's the identity of Seattle offense? There is none. I'll answer
Mr.
the
Kubiak
question
makes it.
for you.
I'm totally at a
There
loss
is
for
none.
words. I'm totally at a loss for words. I'm not a fan of Sam Darnold, aka Bart from How High. Like to me, I just think he was a product of his environment. Playing with Justin Jefferson, playing with KOC at head coach. Who, I mean, we've seen him develop quarterbacks and have them play pretty well. So
Yeah.
I think this is a huge downgrade. We've seen Sam Darnold with pressure. He took 9 sacks in a playoff game.
Yep.
So it's
Not
just
a foolproof plan. This is why this is just the latest edition of the playoff machine.
I
that I
don't
fired up.
see. I can understand why you're here because I do have a ton of respect for the Seahawks defense. What's crazy to me, and I don't want to spoil your next one. Your next one is crazy to me.
Hold on. And you're talking about the AFC, which is where we're going. Okay, Dabbundo. Speaking of crazy, one of them for the AFC is not crazy at all. I actually think it's probably a generic
Go
stock
to the
answer.
crazy one first.
The Bengals?
The Bengals
No.
not crazy. No, you have Joe
Go
Burrow
to
as
the
your
crazy. We
quarterback.
all know which one is the crazy one.
What's the crazy one? Yeah,
Prediction list
please.
right now.
Okay. Well, I guess it's kind of counterproductive, or I guess goes against one another. If I say like I don't think the Raiders are terrible. I had a call last night with our friend Austin Gale, and anytime I
He's
say
a
the
Raiders
word,
fan.
anytime I no,
Yeah,
no,
but he's very critical, Raheem.
yeah,
I
that's the
know.
thing. He
We all
actually
are, but he hates them.
he was pouring the cold water on the Raiders as I said, "Hey man, I'm kind of into the Raiders here." I get it, and I think what he talked about was the defense and just there's a lot of turnover. And I like the coordinator Graham. I think he's done more with less pretty consistently, and especially last year because like you could talk about all the players the Raiders lost in their from a snap perspective from their defense from last season, which was just league average, but there's just a massive gulf in offensive potential between Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell to Geno Smith. You're getting a new coach and a new quarterback. Those are two massive changes. And I think those two things, if Geno can be efficient, if Genti is a hit, all of a sudden the Raiders, and some of this is my skepticism of Denver and LA in that division, the Raiders could be a feisty, again, 8-9 win team with the potential to get to 10. I don't think there's a ceiling because there is so much turnover. I think they could start slow. They do have a huge high leverage game week 1 with New England where Like those are two teams that are in the same kind of bucket of potential wild card sleepers. And I think that I just trust Geno Smith with a indoor scheme and a new coach.
When I would trust
and
Pete
potential.
Carroll. That to me is your argument even more so. Pete Carroll's a program builder. Pete Carroll does not have embarrassing years within the NFL. I mean, where are they? I mean, what do you want to go back to his first year in 1994 with the New York Jets, for goodness sakes? The guy kind of instills a culture. The problem I have, Dabbundo, is the division is so loaded. That's the issue. And I'm out on the Chargers. I am not a Charger believer this year. I am a Denver believer. Me and the rest of America. I apologize in advance. And you got a team by the name of the Kansas City Chiefs who are not going anywhere. That's my issue, Raheem. I believe the Raiders will be a better team this season. I just can't get there with them being a playoff team. That's me.
So I understand Anthony's case. I mean, you look at Pete Carroll, 9-4-1 to the over since 2010. And he's basically saying he's out on the Chargers and the Broncos. So if you're out on the Chargers and the Broncos, and I imagine you're still in on the Chiefs because they got Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
Everybody in on the Chiefs. Yes. Out on the Chiefs, you're an idiot.
You're out on the two teams that everybody else is high on. Somebody else in this division has to, make a move. And if the AFC outside of the big teams, Baltimore, Kansas City, and Buffalo, is still up in the air, then I guess you can sell yourself on the competency of Pete Carroll and Geno Smith making a playoff run. But I think there's a big difference between this team getting into the postseason and then going over their win total. Like, I think
True.
If you had said, this team is going to go over 7.5 wins, I wouldn't have thought it was so crazy. But the fact that you think they're going to the playoffs, that's what was shocking to me. But I understand the argument.
Right. From an odds perspective, like, it's stratified. So, the Broncos are at 9.5, the Chargers are at 9.5. The Raiders are at 7.5. If I kind of think there's not actually that big of a gap between those three teams, then I'm just going to probably play the upside. And here's the one fun way to play this. And I did bet this. You can do the division exacta bets.
Oh, yeah. Those are great. Those are great.
Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos, Chargers, 22-1. Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers, Broncos, 25-1 are out there.
Wow.
So you think the Chiefs win the division and you think the Raiders could make a run at second. Maybe they're
Figure
all
out the other two.
Like, what if they're all 8 or 9 win teams? The other
possible. Not outrageous. Not outrageous. I have one more quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Jaguars, Dabbundo, Liam Cohen, Trevor Lawrence.
Well, you're a Buck guy, then you got to be a Cohen guy, right?
I am a Cohen guy. Although I don't think the Bucs are going to miss him that much because this is already their third offensive coordinator in 3 years, but I don't want to do the Bucs now. That division, there's room for opportunity. Cohen gets the most out of Lawrence. Now or never year for Trevor and Sunshine. I already bet Jacksonville over, and I bet them to win the division. I have them in. I have the Chargers out.
Yeah. My Jags thing is they probably had the worst coordinator duo in the league last year. And just changing those guys is probably a positive for them. Like, the defensive scheme was terrible. They couldn't tackle. They couldn't cover. They played this, aggressive man defense. It was terrible. Where are you on the Trevor Lawrence experience is kind of the big question. Are you holding any stock? Are you giving up? Are you still buying in? Because you can make a case. If you're not a Doug Peterson, Press Taylor guy,
there's another gear for Lawrence.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a talented skill group between receivers and running backs.
And they're in the right division.
But it might be the worst O-line in the league.
Well, if he gets hurt, that goes out the window.
Is garbage. That's the real problem.
I'm not sure how much better they are.
The defense is bad. And Trevor Lawrence is one step above my CDL category.
That's a little unfair. I mean, the guy could go and win a playoff game down 27 points. I mean,
he was also down 27 points because...
Well, the team wasn't that good. They were 9-8. But my point is, it was freaking Brandon Staley and he overrated Justin Herbert, the chosen one,
That's unfair, but I'm with the pie father on this. I'm not a fan of Trevor Lawrence. And look, I know there's a lot of things I can understand why you would want to bet on the Jaguars. They were 3-10 in one-score games last year. Without Trevor Lawrence, they really struggled. I think, what were they, 2-10 without him last year? So,
yeah,
obviously, you bring in a new head coach, a new offensive coordinator. If Lawrence is healthy, they should be able to improve. But I'm just not a fan of Trevor Lawrence at all. And I just think ultimately, there's all this talk about him being a generational quarterback, and he hasn't been that. So,
yeah. I don't know.
I can't get you guys on board. Unfortunate. Okay, quick break.
Like you said, though, coaching and coordinating, they were so bad on fourth down, so bad in the red zone. There were so many games.
My guy, Italian Anthony, from Miami and Green Bay staff last year, blitzing like crazy in the preseason game against the Dolphins. Campanelli, you know us Jersey Italian. I'm not a Jersey Italian. I'm a quarter Italian from Staten Island, but he's one of our own. So Campanelli may be a little upgrade for Jacksonville with that coaching staff. All right, guys, quick break for the YouTube stream. Again, Monday to Friday, starting Labor Day, noon, Ringer Gambling. Want to be with us every day. We'll come back, though. A couple of quick hitters on baseball before we say goodbye. All right, boys. Eventful weekend in baseball. The two of you, I can say this. My condolences on Zach Wheeler. Raheem, could you have a more wide open National League? I mean, I'll take it a step further. Could you have a more wide open sport over the final 2 months of the year? It's insane.
Even more than usual.
I know the books are cleaning up this year because I can't get a handle on it at all. So I just feel like anything can happen. I mean, one thing we know for sure that's not going to happen is the Yankees ain't going to win nothing.
Because you know what? I don't care what their dopey run differential is, Dabbundo. They are a bully. They beat the crap out of these bad teams. They have their margin victories against the Twins or Tampa, whoever. When they play a good team, they can't win. When they play the Red Sox or Toronto, they can't win. I don't care if Fried looked good on Friday. I don't care if Rodon was productive on Sunday. I'm with our guy Raheem on this. This Yankee team is not winning a damn thing. And Aaron Judge is not 100% right. That's another thing.
That's the problem, right? If they're playing Stan in right field, they're DHing Judge. Judge is not 100%. I don't think they should put him back in the outfield this year. You don't trust Max Fried. I think as good as he was in the first half, we have seen this with Max Fried enough that you're like, okay, you had a great first half. You're really good when things are good, but they're not often that good consistently. Like he doesn't have the staying power, and he's really struggled late in seasons as a result of that. So the rotation, like Luis Gil has not been sharp coming back so far, killing my fantasy team every start. I don't buy the Yankees. I'm still the two teams I'm buying in the American League remain at price: Boston and Seattle. That's
Seattle, really?
Yes.
Still Seattle.
Yep.
I don't trust Seattle one bit.
I mean, again, their starters have not looked as sharp, but there's still a month left for them to try to find peak form before the playoffs.
That's fair.
Boston's got the second best pitcher in the American League.
Boston, you could sell me on. Seattle, you couldn't sell me on. So you're out on Toronto and Detroit? This Toronto team keeps finding ways to Dabbundo.
The big X factor with Toronto is Shane Bieber. If Bieber looks really, really good and gives them a frontline starting option, then I take them more seriously. The Blue Jays, though, like their rotation is just a bunch of solid, not great starters.
Scherzer, Bassett, Barrios,
Gausman. And like those guys are all good for 162. Like you have really consistently solid starting pitching for the course of the season. That's great. But when you get to October and you don't have a frontline guy, and maybe Bieber's that guy, we'll see. That's the thing to watch for them. Like I would take Detroit over Toronto because Skubal.
The Skubal factor.
Well, like he's going to start 2 games in the first series. And AJ Hinch is a
tremendous manager. Tremendous manager. Raheem, quickly before we say goodbye, I'm giving you the odds to win a World Series right now. Dodgers favorites at plus 340. Brewers, who have been as good as anybody since April, 8-1. Your Phillies at 8-1. Then you got the Tigers at 9-1. Blue Jays, Padres, Yankees all at 10-1. Mariners 11-1. This is crazy. Astros at 13-1. Cubs 14-1. Mets 16-1. Red Sox at 20-1. That seems a little low.
That's the number.
Anything you like there, Dream?
There's nothing I like, but it's probably a Dodgers world, and we're just probably living in it at this point in time. The interesting thing I think is like really, really interesting is that if you look at the National League odds, the Dodgers are favorite, followed by the Milwaukee Brewers, followed by the Philadelphia Phillies. So even with the loss of Zach Wheeler, Philadelphia Phillies odds hasn't dropped.
Well, because you're going to win the division. You got a 7-game lead on the Mets. They know that. They're factoring that in, I bet.
Yeah, the race for the bye is close. The Dodgers are interesting this year. Their starting pitching is rounding into form. Snell has looked pretty good. Glasnow's looked pretty good. Yamamoto's looked pretty good. Ohtani hasn't, but we'll see. But they have like 3 guys, and Kershaw has given them some good innings. So their starting rotation looks really good, which has always been the red flag with the Dodgers. It's like, who's going to start? But their bullpen looks worse. Their lineup looks worse. Mookie has not been Mookie Betts. Teoscar Hernandez has not been traditional Teoscar Hernandez. So you look around, and the Dodgers are under 500 in their last 45 games. despite their starting rotation coming back. So it's a weird thing. Of course, the market's always going to have respect for the Dodgers. Their talent is extraordinary, but as of right now, they're 2.5 behind Philly. They're going to be playing. They would be playing a 3-game series with the Mets if the playoffs
They
started
could
tomorrow.
lose, and they could lose that series. I wouldn't
For sure.
bet on it, but they could.
Yeah.
Padres are good, Raheem. I know they haven't had playoff success. I like that Padre team
Starting
a lot.
pitching.
They've had a little bit of playoff success.
A little bit.
Yeah, they've been
a little bit.
A couple
But they
years
haven't gone to
ago.
a World Series in forever.
They beat the
1998 is a
Dodgers
long
a couple
time.
years ago.
Came
the
close
Dodgers.
last year. Closest team to beating the Dodgers.
Yeah. Not the Yankees and not the Mets. So we buckle up. We obviously are going to do a ton of football on this feed, as you can imagine. It is a football-centric show this time of year. But each and every week, we will have a check-in on the baseball because I'm into it. We know that. Dabbundo is into it, and we can always get Raheem into it. That's a given. Boys.
Joe House told me he bought a Brady House jersey. Nationals infielder. Rookie kid.
Oh,
that
did he
called
really?
up.
Yankees
I
are playing
texted
the
him.
Nationals. They'll beat the piss out of them. That's what they do. They'll beat the Nationals. They'll embarrass them, and then they'll play a real team, and we know what happens there. So, boys, we survived our first YouTube stream. Of course, they'll be posted on a pod on the Ringer Gambling feed, 2/3 of the East Coast Bias Boys. Dabbundo, Raheem, we made it. Job well done.
It was a fun episode. I'm excited. I mean, we're less than 10 days now from football.
We did not
NFL
knock
football.
off this stream. Yeah, we got some good college coming up this weekend. I'm not the biggest college guy. I will be betting way too much college football for my liking on
We got
Saturday.
Euro basket too. If y'all into some basketball, I might get out some Euro basket plays.
Oh, you sick man. You sick man. So remember, YouTube
Hit the
stream.
EuroLeague future, so y'all don't forget that.
That's right. That's right. Make sure you know, daily, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, starting Labor Day, Monday to Friday. Bunch of shows coming up this week. Raheem and I are going to be back on Thursday. When are you back on this feed, Dabbundo? I don't even know.
I'm coming on as a guest with Tate and Sal Tuesday, and then next Monday, I guess I'm hopping on with you guys.
That is right. And our usual 3 and Out with Anthony Dabbundo segment that we may need to get sponsored. So that's going to do it for 2/3 East Coast Bias Boys plus our main man, AD. We didn't blow up the stream. Hallelujah for that. JJ out. Be good, everybody.